Hello, people, and good morning. Yeah, the weather is crazy. It's kind of cool this morning, but it's really humid, which is kind of sucks. You know, it's nice that it's cool, but it's still humid, and you just want to wring everything out. It's the 20th of June. Cheers. Yes, folks, thank you for chiming in. Life is precious, and it is an ordeal to deal with. It is. So hearing from some of you folks sharing your thoughts and feelings about grief, you are heard. And no offense to the person who was trying to offer me advice on my sidewalk. It was not necessary. It's like I wasn't born yesterday. One of the first things that got discussed, even before the workers from the city were gone, who were spray painting the cracks, because I noticed, my cousin Ray noticed the morning they were out there working, because of the nice mornings. Ray will be out working in his garden, and I've been going out sitting in the morning. So we talked to him what was going on, and one of the first things we discussed was about who's responsible and what the city expects, and the whole idea that I have to jackhammer the panels. That was discussed right away, and that's not something I'm going to be doing. The other thing is that, as I said, it's really kind of drawn me and my two neighbors, Raymond and Ray, closer because we're working on this. I just spoke to Ray, the Mexican, this morning after talking with him yesterday. And he does a certain type of work on houses, but because he's a professional, he has a contractor that he works with who's going to do the sidewalk for all of us, which I'm very pleased. And we'll it will be much less than what the city would charge us, because again, they're just creating revenue off the backs of the poorest citizens, as always. But thank you for your concern. I'll go ahead and again give you too much information. Because of my experience in this country, growing up, being a little bit of a space case, but also being a black kid, I bristle when people give me advice when they didn't ask for it. As though, what do you think? I'm stupid? Do I look stupid? Just sharing that, okay? So that's because of a life experience, okay? It's interesting how my honesty about my thoughts on all kinds of things triggers other really negative people. One person tried to leave a comment, it made it into the review portion first, so it didn't even get posted, and I just deleted them right away. And it's just, I don't, those type of comments only show the soullessness of the person writing, as opposed to them getting some kind of dig on me. I just see what's going on. It's like my force shield has been strengthened over the years against that bullshit. You see through it. At first, it catches years ago when it first happened to me. I deleted those. Caught me way off guard. Got my Coltrane on today. You learn, okay, and you build up resistance, and you realize what you're dealing with, which is pure ignorance, and people who are rotten. Something's wrong with them. Another quick update. Car's still in the shop. Looks like I won't have to pay anything except more for labor. Looks like they kind of fucked up. we'll see. I just hope to get the car back without too much more damage to my wallet. And I'm glad that Ray, the contractor, is doing the sidewalks, because that means that we'll be able to work on a payment system to him, because it's going to cost, even through his contractor, we're going to be looking at over $1,000 of cumulative cost between the three of us, and we just want him to do it all. Just go on down the street. So, to speak of music, I told you a few days ago I got that package of music from a Jeff Searle. I mentioned this one, Tek San, Sanskrit Tahiti. Really like this. If you see it, Mr. Searle or anybody else, I'm recommending this. I'll tell you what, it's very seldom. I mean, Discus and those guys, they send me good stuff. And I appreciate it a lot. It's not that often that they send me something where it's like, if I'd heard this in the wild, I'd buy it. An example of, like, for example, Discus, where, the Guy Seggers Eclectic Maybe Band, what he's doing, if I heard that in the wild, I'd buy it. This is one of those. I didn't know about this guy, but this one, of the bunch that he sent me, it's like, I listened to this again all the way through yesterday. I'd buy this. I recommend this. Sanskrit Tahiti. This really churns really well. And what I especially like about it is that it takes a couple minutes for him and whoever he's playing with to establish the groove. But once the groove gets going, it's slightly clunky at first, and then it congeals, or is that the word? It comes together. And there will be these snippets of melody, just memorable little statements that keep popping up throughout, because all these tracks are long. 11 minutes, 14 minutes, 12 minutes, 9 minutes. And there was one on here that got me to finger popping. The groove was so good, I wanted to pop I snapped my fingers to it, So that's one. Tek San. I didn't write it down in the last one, the description of what I've been listening to. I will this one. Try not to forget. If I didn't mention it, the car's still in the shop, hoping to hear something here in a minute. Yeah, I did. Okay. So besides this, listening to that yesterday, the internet is strange. I was able to get those Marvel movies on YouTube intact, a couple of them. Then I went to look for in my history for the movies, and the channel has already disappeared. But there was another movie channel where I was able to watch X-Men Apocalypse. So that's part of how I spent yesterday waiting for news on the car. I watched X-Men Apocalypse. And I enjoyed it. Musically, we were talking about James Chance died. I recently got a reissue of No New York. I bought this when it first came out. Had an original copy on Antilles, the American label that put it out. And James Chance is on here. Right? Is he? Yeah, the Contortions, yeah. And also, of note on here, this was my introduction to Arto Lindsay. I really like his work. EQA, Elaine was on here. Teenage Jesus and the Jerks with Lydia Lunch. This was my introduction to her. My ex-bandmate, ex-friend, Joe Budenholzer, recorded and worked with Lydia Lunch. She's on one of her albums. I forget which one. I say ex because Joe is one of those kind of mysterious type of people. He's in the circle of people with Stephen Stapleton, members of Coil, and people like that. David Tibet. And the last time I stayed with him in New York, he just told me really bluntly, he said, "You're too nice." And it took me a while to understand what he meant. But I'm not going to change, but I know what he means. Because that's how It's how it goes. You know, you want to get something done. You want to get something. You can't be nice. Sucks. I'm gonna be nice, okay? Unless I'm forced not to be nice, and that won't be pretty. When that happens, it ain't pretty. I don't want to be bothered. You bothered me, you started. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, don't be starting no shit with me. But the thoughts about James Chance, that's where some of that led. Another record I listened to while going to sleep last night on a, just it popped up on one of the, I have all kinds of material, CDs of mixes that I've made to listen to in the car, etc. And so one that I popped in last night ended on this album, What Comes After by Terje Rypdal. This is an absolute favorite, 1974. Yeah, folks, I'm an old guy. I'm going to be 69 in a few weeks. So I'm not listening to the latest top. Things have changed so much that Billboard has a TikTok countdown now. But that's the world we live in. This is a very moody album. I think the cover is perfect. That road, the line in the road, it's suggestive of other things. It's like you see what it is and then it looks like something altogether different. This is a deep album. And it has one of my Desert Island favorite songs, Icing. Very moody, very wonderful. Blind Pull yesterday, Ippu-Do from Japan, Masami Tsuchiya's band, Radio Fantasy. This stuff is even a little bit kitschy. You know, they do the Mission Impossible theme on here. It's kind of fun. It's kind of funny, you know. And Time of the Season, I think it was a hit for them, but I like their version. It's a good version. And he, as a guitarist, toured with the band Japan, and he's on their Oil on Canvas album. It was a blind pull. Let me pop some tunes. Something else that got played. I didn't play the Miles Davis. Interestingly, I was drawn back to Nurse with Wound another time. It was like, I felt like, well, I played one of the albums, but I didn't play the other. And I would have to look, but I recognize some of the material on the second album where he's using some samples. I said, that is not a typical sample. It's a woman in orgasmic ecstasy. And it's like, he's used this before. He's used other parts of this particular recording. It's kind of jarring because it's like it's private. It's not like watching and hearing people who are making porn when they pant and all that sort of stuff. This is like, ooh, we're not supposed to be here. This is private, you know. This person's doing something. So that was interesting. And that is all that I listened to yesterday. So I hope everyone's okay. I appreciate hearing from you, and I appreciate that you folks feel okay with talking to me. Someone said in the comments that, you know, what I had posted was very moving. I, for one, do not want to be afraid of people. Thank you, folks who said to me, sending me love. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And saying happy birthday to Patrick. Thank you so much. I know that there are a lot of really damaged people, and the spectrum of humanity is that we have pure evil to pure goodness, we would like to think, and we're along this spectrum, somewhere in between. So there's always going to be some low-life, horrible people who have bad intentions that will make their presence known. but I am not afraid of them. And that's what they run on. Half the time it's fear. It's unfortunate. And it's unfortunate that it's not something commonly taught to learn how to not fear your fellow man. I've told this story before, but I'll share it again, especially if my family is watching. Adrian, my sister Adrian, watched yesterday. She said it brought her to tears. If you see this, Adrian, do you remember the neighborhood bully? Well, he was one of the bullies in the neighborhoods. So we had the Valentines on our block, and then down on Evans Street, where I had several friends, that area was a bully named Keith Ross. I'm just going to say his name because he was a scumbag. And he assaulted me literally once. He's one of the bullies that beat me up for no reason one day, going to school or coming back. And he had a gang, you know what I'm saying, that would watch him and maybe help him if he needed it. Well, one day, 6th grade, Adrian, it was 6th grade. I, for some reason, didn't take my usual route. You know how you have your safe routes in the hood? I went up Evans Street instead of 26th or 27th Street that we usually walked on from school. Sure enough, like a dummy, I walked right into Keith Ross and his buddies. Boy, were they happy to see me, and we were just getting ready to have a beatdown. But by then, our older brother James had taught me something that worked for him. You know, he said, when the motherfuckers come up on you, you know, go crazy on them. Act like you're crazy. And I'd seen my brother do it too, with on the block. I think it was with either the Valentines or the Herons or somebody else. And he just went ballistic, you know, swinging and cursing and talking like a crazy person. Everybody backed off of him. I remember that. And that I didn't do it like James, but I did a version of it. But instead, I just went crazy. I went right at Keith Ross like an animal. His eyes got... I'm very proud of that. Scared him. Scared his boys. They backed off. They was, what the fuck's wrong with this? So even when people want to hurt you, there's no reason to be in fear. We have way too much fear in this world. It's part of how politics runs, is playing upon people's fears and stoking fears. I hate it. I hate it. So that's what I want to share today. Hoping to have a car before the end of the day. Hope you have a good day. Let me know how you're doing.